application, you must come to the microphone. Please first state your name and address for the record. All interested parties shall be heard, but repetitious comments should be avoided. Repetitious or irrelevant comments may be ruled out of order by the chair. I ask that you remain respectful and courteous with your comments at all times. After all public comments have been heard, the staff and applicant may make a closing statement. The hearing shall then be closed by motion and vote. Thereafter, no further comments from the staff, public, or applicant may be heard unless asked for by the commission. The commission shall then deliberate the case and may ask questions of the applicant, the staff, or any party offering testimony. However, such questions do not reopen the hearing for additional comments from the public unless so requested or approved by the commission. The commission will then formulate and vote on a motion. The motion will typically either grant or deny the requested application. Any commission member who has an ex parte communication to place in the record of this meeting should do so prior to the beginning of the deliberation of the respective agenda item. And with that, our first item on the agenda is any citizen not on the agenda wishing to be heard. Seeing none, we'll go to number 2, the approval of the minutes from the zoning commission meeting of June 26, 2017.
There's on page 3, I don't know if it's a big deal or not, but it says them, and I think it's supposed to say there. Where it says,
How many paragraphs down?
it's the second paragraph down, it says treasurer's certificate of taxes and special assessments under the signature line. It should have my claim, and it says they will print them name, their name, if that's a big deal. I think it should say there.
You'd see it.
That's, yeah. No, I got 2 more.
Okay.
And then on page 6, this was pointed out to me as I was walking in, it should say silt fence, not,
Slit fence?
yeah.
Okay. First paragraph after number 4, actually the second paragraph, right? Bruce already asked if there would be a silt
Yeah,
fence.
That's,
You just try to choose.
Yeah.
yeah,
Should be, what do you think? Silt.
SILT. And then I don't live on Morningside Avenue, I live on Buchanan Avenue. I think that's all. You got it. Yeah, that's all I got.
I've got a couple also. Page 4, midway down, Mr. McBride should be bride. Same sentence as states 1,000 animal units. It was 500 animal units.
Can we discuss that
Um,
animal unit thing though? I just wanna.
Yeah, you used the term 1,000. I actually was discussing 500.
Well, there's 2 levels.
Yep.
The 500 unit, animal unit threshold applies to the manure management plan requirement. The 1,000 animal unit threshold applies to the requirement that the DNR issue a construction permit. That's affectionately known as what people call the matrix, where you're scored
Okay.
on certain categories. So there's 2, it's not
But-
an incorrect statement, but I don't,
Well, I refer to it as 500 because
Okay.
the 500 actually is also the setback.
okay, that's fine.
That's what I'm saying. You use the 1,000. I actually referred to it as, because that's where I was talking from, was the 500 animal
Okay.
unit. So that's what John was correct when he stated 1,000 higher in the paragraph.
So the sentence setbacks don't apply because it's under measuring 500.
500.
And then page 5, it's also McBride there.
Any other corrections?
I just got one thing I just noticed now on page 1. first line, first paragraph, that should be 26th.
TH,
Yeah.
okay.
First,
Yeah, it should read immediately, no, the 26th.
Entertain a motion to approve the minutes from June 26, 2017,
As amended.
as amended. Thank you.
So moved.
Motion and a second.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next item on the agenda is a zoning ordinance section 2.029.e, review and recommendation for board of adjustment for conditional use permit application by property owner Cynthia DeRocher Anderson and Patrick G. DeRocher for 11 rural Woodbury County parcels in sections 16, 17, and 21 of Hendon Township. John, you want to introduce that?
Yes, I will. We're on page 2 of 7, regarding agenda item number 3. This evening, you're specifically tasked with reviewing a conditional use permit application and providing your commission's recommendation to the Woodbury County Board of Adjustment, stating if each of the standards found within ordinance subsection 2.02-9.f will be met. You're further tasked with authorizing your chairman to provide the recommendation in writing to the chairman of the Woodbury County Board of Adjustment. We've done, I don't know how many of these over the past months and years, so you probably have these standards in section 2.02 memorized, but they are provided there. I'm not going to read them into the record because we typically come back to them individually. I'm now on page 3, under background. The applicants wish to develop and operate a multi-use event center complex within rural Woodbury County. The development and multiple uses will occur within 11 parcels, all owned by the applicants. Location is 2 miles north of Anthon and 0.3 miles west of Highway 31 right-of-way. Access to the development can occur from either the north or south along different sections of Wolf Creek Trail. The development will be serviced by an existing drive address, 1953 Wolf Creek Trail. I then laid out each of the 11 parcel GIS numbers, their respective acres, which total 425 acres. That is a ton of ground, but keep in mind here that most of these parcels were included because they'll be part of a riding trail. Access to that will be provided as part of the amenities of the complex. A portion of the development area is within a Zone A flood hazard area, primarily along or near a tributary of the Little Sioux River called Rock Creek. Rock Creek bisects 8 of the 11 parcels within the project area. The applicant has been issued a Woodbury County floodplain development permit to begin a grading plan, increasing elevations within a specific area. The goal being to remove from the 100-year floodplain an area where the southern portion of the horse arena and event center structure will be located. As the applicants reside on one of the 11 parcels, the project was initially assessed under the existing zoning and the county's home occupation use ordinances. It was determined it would be impossible all home occupation tests could be consistently met. This fact, and the fact the combination of the existing permitted uses and the requested conditional uses would not be compatible with any single zoning district designation, are the reasons the conditional use permit application is required. All 11 parcels and the rural area in general are zoned AP, agricultural preservation. Current uses of the parcels are compliant with Woodbury County zoning ordinances. Of note is the fact that the private agricultural, timber, and livestock uses of the land and the structures in which these uses occur are exempt from local ordinances under section 335.2 of the Iowa Code. We refer to that as the agricultural exemption. However, when the uses and structures are offered to the general public, a non-agricultural business use is initiated with the protections afforded under section 335.2 no longer applicable. The proposed development centerpiece includes the construction of a 200 by 216 multi-level structure which will include on its main level a horse arena, bleachers, horse stalls, header cap and striping chutes, a tack room, saddle and prepping area, wash bay, restrooms, an office, concession area, kitchen area, and storage area. The upper level will contain 9 residential apartment rental units. The Office of Planning and Zoning has previously received a building permit application for this structure. The application was approved in March of 2017 as the applicant stated the structure was solely for personal use. The applicant subsequently determined the primary use of the structure will be for business purposes. Your commission's CUP review is required due to this fact that significant business use of the structure is now planned. The average unadjusted corn suitability rating for the parcel where structure grading will occur is 63.11. The application requests the following to be conditionally permitted uses. The uses requested are a mixture of indoor and outdoor uses or activities. Number 1, an event center for roadie events, clinics, receptions, auctions, exhibitions, meetings, a bed and breakfast, lodging, and food service operation. It may be noted, I don't think a decision has finally been made, but beer and/or liquor license applications may be considered. The complex will, number 2, will include parking areas for complex attendees. Our numbering is a little messed up there. Let's make these 3 through 7 now, okay? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 3, equestrian trail riding and stable facility rental. 4, retail sales in the area of camper-related groceries, camper-related supplies, horse supplies, tax supplies, and animal health services. Number 5, outdoor recreational events including archery, horseshoes, etc. Number 6, appropriate signage for the facility. Number 7, campgrounds and a recreational vehicle park, a portion of which will have utility hookup. We've provided you with exhibits A through L. I'm not going to read them all into the record, but we'll reflect them in the record. Most of this is basically supporting documentation, probably the most important of which is the application itself, wherein the applicant has provided a narrative of his project, as well as his response to each of the standards for your consideration tonight. Rest of it is basically aerial representations. Due to the size of the things, it took a little more than, we blew up an aerial, it wouldn't fit on one map, so we did a north portion and a south portion. And for most of the information related to parcel numbers, zoning district information, and I think we did one that was an overall, did we give you that? No, we did not. Yeah, we did. We gave you the floodplain. That was an overall. Also gave you summary information on the CSR2s and, of course, our site photographs. I'm going to withhold any comment on staff recommendation until it's requested after hearing all the public testimony. I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding any of the materials we supply of the application. I think the applicant may also want to be heard.
Okay, my first question is on page 4 of 7, you mentioned striking chutes. I'm guessing that's supposed to be roping chutes.
Where did you say it is?
Is it roping chutes? Is what this is supposed to be, or strapping or stripping chutes?
It's a regular event where the roping is.
Okay, so it is roping chutes?
Yeah.
I think we took that off one of the,
One of the maps?
one of the
Diagrams?
diagrams of it, and I didn't know what it meant either.
The stripping part would maybe be taking the checkers off the outline.
Oh, okay, okay.
Is that, so it is a correct terminology then? I
They
think,
have to have it in the chute to take off
The headgear for the steers? Okay.
yeah, there, it's on sheet number S-103 in the right-hand side of the arena, and I think I make it out as STRIPPING
Okay,
by the calf pen.
yep, stripping chute,
Stripping? Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, first time I've ever heard that.
That was just some examples of what events and placements of,
Okay.
dates and stuff would be.
All right.
You guys want to come up to the microphone and we'll give you a chance to speak to us about all your ideas and plans and answer whatever questions we have?
Well, as I had prepared, and it should be in your files, just a little history of how we came up with this proposal. With a series of events in the past years, trying to be able to accommodate Mother Nature. And you had this in your files?
Yes.
So anyway, long story short, Mother Nature's been raising havoc with the incentives we've been trying to accommodate out there. The place has been for generations recreational for saddle clubs and friends and family for riding. And of course, once they get into horse events and stuff, and people want to progress and stuff, so that's where the roping and sewing and different events come into it. And we're just offering it a facility so we don't have to deal with the weather. Cindy goes twice a year to all different parts of the country for the horse clinics and stuff. They're learning, there's never an end to what you can learn. We'd like to be able to pass on some of this. Our kids and grandkids are able to enjoy some of this. We've got people that have called and want writing lessons and different things. And we've talked about it for some time about having summer camp for kids, so they can have a taste of the horses and activities and stuff. And there's nothing really in this area, this community, that will accommodate. It used to be, when I was in college, down in by Riverside or someplace, there was a ranch down there that, they had horses and horse, accommodations and stuff, and it's not available anymore unless you own your own horses, so. And even people that have their own horses, it's getting where they're closing parks down and stuff to where they don't have places to ride. It's a very scenic place. We try to maintain it, we put in dams and stuff to try to control runoff of water and stuff. And it had 100 acres of farm ground, but we sold it all to grass just because it was, more accommodating than just trying to farm a few hills, and it just made it a ranch, to where you utilize all the grassland and the tree areas and stuff for shade. But, and as far as those 9 living accommodations, it's mostly overnight accommodations, other than maybe a summer camp for the kids. They're not going to be our full-time residents by no means. We still like to have our privacy and stuff there too. It's going to be limited to scheduled events, and really there's not a lot of events during the year. It's not like it's an every week big event. Now there's half a dozen ropers that would like to come in on a weekly basis, but it's not anything that's going to be, it'd be on a limited scale at that point. There might be some bigger events, but it wouldn't be very often. I still got a full-time job. I want to be able to enjoy this as a recreation. So I don't know if there's anything else. I mean, I'm in construction, so this is my design. We'll be building it. We've got control over the environment and stuff around it, as far as pollution and runoffs and stuff. But we've tried to maintain a rustic atmosphere, and that's kind of depicted by some of the fencing we've used. Log cabin for what was at one time a single wide trailer. Now it's a double wide log cabin. So the barn itself will be rustic wood on the exterior, a lot of rock and stuff, foundation, synthetic, for cosmetic reasons. And then being Rock Creek, we have abundance of rocks, so we'll be landscaping and so forth with rocks. But, I don't know if there's any particular questions about what we're trying to do there.
What about the extra parking that you're gonna need for these people when you have the events, once you get the building built?
We have a map for parking.
Oh, do you? You missed it. Okay.
Part of the dirt required for for the site preparation was able to create doubling our parking space, and likewise, there's parking space
Oh, right here.
on both sides of
Missed
the
it.
building and stuff.
I think there's 2 or 3 different separate
Yeah,
locations.
there's quite a bit of actual parking space. There's an original campsite that normally we'll have 20-some campers, in that area, which is pasture parking, there's usually 20, 25 campers in there, when the weather cooperates. But we just, last fall, I went just north of what was an existing arena, which is at the top of your page there, the parking lot, that's all gravel, and everything will be gravel, as far as the erosion and problems and stuff. There's 2 exits to the property, entrances, whatever, to where, it'd be a circular type, flow of traffic, through the, and we are located, roughly a half mile off of a main highway, hard surface road.
Like the horse stalls, do you see yourself boarding horses then, or?
Boarding horses?
No, you got all the stalls up here on the,
Well, when they camp, it gives them
Okay.
facilities for overnight camping and stuff to,
but not year round.
You were saying that this other parcel up here is gonna be for trail rides?
There's 11 parcels.
Yeah. And
And
what I was,
usually there's probably what I refer to as kind of 2 quarter sections, 160 acres.
well, will these come together in that corner? Is there a way you can get across there? Yeah, do you have easement to go across that or something?
That's all property.
Yeah, but
I think what he's wondering is where the points meet.
where these
Is that
two
wide
points
enough?
meet- Where these 2 points meet, from this point here to here, do you have a way to get across that?
What they're saying is
It's all patched.
technically, the point where they meet is so narrow
Yeah.
that you're probably gonna be on somebody else's property.
It's all contained within the grazing area of the cattle.
What I envision here,
And you own this little piece right here then too?
no, we
didn't
marked
think so.
everything, he owned. I think, Pat, didn't we have a discussion where you have arrangements with neighbors that may allow you?
That's beyond this.
Yeah,
That's
I-
beyond this.
I know it, but I think what he's referring to is you probably should
This point right
reduce
here.
that
those.
arrangement to something in writing if you're gonna use this for a business.
I think that's all he was asking
Yeah.
about, is where these
Mike-
2
Mike
portions.
Gray, Mike Gray lives across the road. He has just a little corner there of the property, his property on the.
That you use to get,
Yeah, it's all fenced.
There's
It's
a
all fenced
gate.
off.
Yeah, there's a gate.
okay, but that's what I was getting at, is typically if you own this section, this land here and this land here, that point wouldn't be okay, but he's allowing you access through
Yes,
part of his
I don't-
property.
I don't think it goes up that far, but you've got the area over here. I guess, to my knowledge, this is all timber and stuff that is all open.
We included in the assessment, every acre that was in your name.
Yeah, I
Because
guess
we
I've
knew you
never-
might be potentially writing in that.
Yeah, and
It's
I
not-
guess
it's
I've
not
never
that-
really known where Mike Gray's property is. It's just fenced off.
Yeah, because you got 4 parcels that come together in that corner up above. I went and made my own map, but you got, like right here, you own this section here and then this section up here, well, these 4 sections up here
Yeah,
are 4 pieces.
well, at the moment, it's all
But, I mean, you can evidently get across this little piece right here to get up in here if you wanna ride up in there is all I,
Yeah.
and
Well, like I
all I
say,
want.
It's presently fenced off at the road, so that's all open. That's all open area.
Okay.
But
Well, that's open on this,
it's-
this piece of that angled road is open, so you got access to just go through that.
Yeah.
even though you don't
Yeah,
own it.
yeah,
Right
that's,
up the creek too.
yeah, like I say, that's all,
And I assume that's, like you said, if it's something that could be in writing to obtain a permanent.
It might be wise, I think, from
Yeah.
a business perspective, to
yeah,
have that.
yeah, and I've never seen this map to know that that was pinched off right there.
Right, it'd be a point that wouldn't have any access. If whoever down the road were to own that, they could say, don't
Yeah.
come on my property.
Yeah.
So just for your protection,
Get some kind of an easement there to cover you, you know, so
Yeah.
that you can drive. I
Yeah.
mean,
This is the first time I
from
saw
what
that.
I'm seeing with all the trees up there, that's
That
probably
tight,
a
yeah.
perfect place to go ride, you know, up in those, in that area up in there, and that's, was a concern question I had, that's
I'm
something
glad you brought it to our
work out.
attention, because like I said, I didn't know that it was, you know, right to that point like
Yeah.
that.
I've got another question. I noticed on the building permit, they're saying there's 40 acres on this parcel. Is that what it's telling you?
Yeah, the original building permit was tied to just the site
There's
of
only
where we're putting the
21
structure on.
But there's only 21 acres on that parcel that.
I know, but some of the parking, if I recall, spills out onto a couple bordering or adjacent parking areas, so we
But-
included it all.
Well, I just don't, you know, I don't want somebody to come up and say, well, there's not 40 acres on that parcel, and that's what you're saying, which really isn't true. There's only 21.86 acres according
Right.
to the map.
We're just giving you background on the permit deal. We're probably gonna, if you approve this permit and it gets through the Board of Adjustment, we will probably have him do another building permit application because the use is being converted from personal to a business.
Well, what I'm getting at is he's got 51 acres that's abut in the same parcel, so that all I was gonna do is bring that up. That
Sure.
those two could be however you gotta do to make everybody happy that way, but, you know.
We'll just
this-
change the number of acres to include where he's actually spotting things. in this
Yeah,
permit.
I mean, you know, I guess it looks to me like it's all gonna be on that one main, where the house and everything is. It's not gonna cross that next section line to get into that next parcel.
and you actually have to file a new building permit, I assume,
Well, I think.
for the,
That permit probably has reference to personal use.
right, that's what I was getting at. So you either have to amend it or apply for,
The first permit was technically ag exempt because it was personal use. The underpinnings of this whole project are related to ag. Now that's being converted to a business use, I think the permit should be upgraded to deal with, probably want to mention within the permit all the acres because they'll be put to different particular uses.
Yeah, you could.
We'll just include the
You know, I
425.
mean, it's nice that he's keeping the building on one parcel, so if for some odd reason, something happened that parcel got away from you, there's not part of the building sitting on the next parcel to create an issue. Say all of a sudden, somebody else owns the parcel where the building is, and you got 20 feet on that next parcel, and somebody else ends up buying that, and all of a sudden you got a building that's over the line. Or if that's the case, bring part of that, you know, however you gotta do to make it together.
just out of curiosity, you know, the proposed site in Mobile a few years ago. Yeah, it's been a while back. Was that kind of why, you know, that didn't go through? I know a lot of people were in support of that. Is there kind of a lot of the same following that's wishing for this, or?
This is more of a personal thing for myself to do it.
Okay,
And I know it's gonna be welcome because of the mobile situation that never got passed. And that's why we had to have some of these revisions in there so that, you know, with the popularity of the girls that would have covered underneath the conditional.
Our theory was we didn't want to be in here every 6 months with an additional use. That doesn't mean every use they're asking for is going to be initiated.
The
day one.
mobile fairground building that they use for roping and sorting now has been discussed about, they wanted redo it, but nobody, the board doesn't wanna redo it, so I'm not trying to take that activity away from the fair board, but I think, you know, as things develop and opportunities occur, I'm sure that they're gonna wanna, the Thursday night, Friday night activities would probably be moved to this.
Well, at one time, my wife leased a horse from somebody up in South Dakota, just across the river, and she's looked for somebody else to be able to do the same thing, again, to build a ride.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah,
however,
there's no place for us to ride if it's raining or if
Yeah,
it's.
we have a lot of
Exactly.
people that have been riding on this property for 25, 30 years, and they keep coming back, and they enjoy it, and I guess, we have new, younger people that would like to be able to enjoy some of the same things too, so. I gotta apologize, we were gonna put together a little more of a history photo for you here,
We've been busy.
but we didn't get that done. You know, this is the site that we proposed to put the building on, and, in the background is, our log cabin home, which, we bought this in 2007, which is in the, right up here, but anyway,
This is kind of panning the horizon from left to right.
so we started out, because we had a cow calf operation on the location, we started out with a trailer house, which, because we had a cow calf operation and we live in there part-time, that it would qualify, but then it got to where we needed more space, so then we made it double wide. We went over top of the trailer house and we built this log cabin. And I guess it in itself is unique because it's cement logs. It's not wood. So, like I say, we tried to keep things looking rustic with the fences and that, and the same with the new proposed building will be all rustic. It had which is in the right up too. I mean, the place was an original stagecoach mail stop, and we really wanted to do something with that building, but it was definitely in the flood zone area. And by the time we purchased the property, the building was getting quite deteriorated. And so we did keep one side of the structure, which actually has a couple windows in it, to where we propose to put some kind of a little history in, you know, and have this section inside of the arena event center, so. And that was just brought to our attention, you know, after the barn was pretty well gone, you know, local lumberyard person told me that that's the history of that barn, so. Trying to preserve history and just make things available for up and coming horse enthusiasts and the old ones, enthusiasts that are wanting to still keep riding there. Making it more comfortable. You know, we don't sleep in tents anymore when we go camping, so we're just trying to make it a little more comfortable.
That's why the trailer house became a double wide, because the grandkids come camping with us, and it was a little hard when it grew to 12 grandkids.
The
Put
tents.
them all in there in one night.
And inevitably, it always rained.
Yeah, it always rained on us. We had, set up some teepees for them, had a big old thunderstorm, and they got all wet, and that was no fun.
No fun.
And a lot of the horse people have their own living quarter trailers, but there's some people that don't, so that's why, you know, we just try to make some accommodations for people that want to spend a night.
Or to have a clinic or something.
Horse clinics,
You know,
same
there's
thing.
a lot of young people that don't have living quarters or have their own trailer. They need a place to stay.
I'm not counting on it to cash flow and pay for itself as far as the structure, but, you know, as far as electricity and utilities and stuff, I hope to, you know, at least do enough stuff to cover that. Like I said, it's some kind of a personal thing that I want to do for myself. It's not, you know, we call it a business, but it's, you know, it's just, we're giving back, you know, to people that enjoy what we enjoy.
Any questions at this point? Okay. Do we,
motion that we close the public hearing.
Close the second, okay, public hearing is closed. Okay, so in order to grant a conditional use, the board of adjustment must determine that A, the conditional use requested is authorized as a conditional use in the zoning district within which the property is located, and that any specific conditions or standards described as part of that authorization have been or will be satisfied.
Staff feels comfortable that standard can be met. Bearing in mind that this is such a unique project, that each and every specific use that we've asked for isn't always there defined the same way. But in light of the fact that the underpinnings of this is so related to, the definition of what makes agriculturally exempt, livestock, which includes horses, we feel comfortable that that standard can be met.
Do you want to keep going, or do you want to, do you have any comments you pass through?
Historically, that's how you've done it. It's probably the best way to protect the record, shouldn't have any disenfranchised neighbor that comes in.
Okay, go ahead and approve each item? Each one? Okay.
Oh, you mean vote on the,
Yeah.
no, let's go all through,
And then-
each through and then vote overall.
Okay. The next one then, the proposed use and development will be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of this ordinance and the goals, objectives, and standards of the general plan. Opinion, John? Does anybody have any comments?
I see nothing in regard to the goals and objectives of the comp plan or the ordinances that would evaluate, would be in opposition to the general purpose and intent. Granted, we are going to have some issues related to maybe roadway, right-of-way use that we'll have to deal with. It kind of depends what we get from the county engineer,
Okay.
but I can anticipate what that might be. I feel we're okay there.
Next one is the proposed use and development will not have a substantial or undue adverse effect upon adjacent property, the character of the neighborhood, traffic conditions, parking, utility facilities, and other factors affecting the public health, safety, and general market welfare. Comment?
Couple comments in regard to that. The area is so open and so large, being 425 acres, there's plenty of visual buffer area that would impact adjacent property owners. The residential density on the site per se is nil except for the applicants. The right-of-way impact to the north there's two access points from Highway 31. On the north side, there are no residences, no drives from the driveway to this facility and to US Highway 31. That distance, if I recall, is approximately quarter mile. The south route to get to Highway 31 is approximately 1.3 miles, and it includes 4 drives to residences. And that's where I think the engineer is going to make a comment, most likely, that should he determine dust control is warranted for an event, that responsibility would be on the applicant. But I don't know that yet. And that's more of a decision that you could raise the awareness of the Board of Adjustment so they take it up, but it's not something we really vote on here. That is a condition that you can raise, that they consider that being a condition.
I don't see anybody sitting there complaining about it, so I'd say no.
Well, the other issue here is the comment here that you go through, there's no public notice requirement either in the paper or to adjacent property owners. We did publish today for
That's, I think,
If there is any
in the
at all.
past, that's what's happened, is our meetings, they don't show up at, but Board of Adjustments where they show up. And we're not requiring that, that's just a suggestion that could be used to solve an issue if it is or does
If you
arise.
recall, in some of our past borrow scenarios, you've heard comments and assessed and determined, hey, the Board of Adjustment should really consider this, and you told them that in writing as part of your motion. And you're certainly welcome to do that here again on any issue, whether it's dust control or anything else you feel should be looked at very closely.
The next one is D, the proposed use and development will be located, designed, constructed, and operated in such a manner that it will be compatible with the immediate neighborhood and will not interfere with the orderly use, development, and improvement of surrounding property. And it's
I-
400 and some acres.
That's right.
There's
yeah.
no residences nearby.
No. We don't see this interfering to any significant degree with anyone else's property, other than maybe the fugitive dust and dust control issue
It's like a
on
traffic.
property, trailers. And I don't know, if in one of these events, everybody coming in, within a half-hour period. I would anticipate it's probably spread out over a longer period of time when people come to an event. But, I think we've got about 276 lineal feet of bleachers in the center. And if you figure 18 inches per person, you do the math, we're not talking about thousands of people here. The other component of that thing is if they do decide in the future to rent it out for wedding receptions or any type of meeting, auction, those kinds of things, those will probably be, more often than not, weekend events. And I don't know if this does, if I recall, the meeting area is about 4,800 square feet.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's a pretty good sized room. And I don't know how many people you pack into a wedding, but, I don't see any consistent use of the right of way that couldn't be dealt with a certain amount of dust control pre-event.
Those 4 residents that are on that other road, do you have any idea approximate setbacks or distance?
Distance of the house, no,
Yeah,
I didn't measure it, maybe.
Any
maybe
idea?
the applicants can give us.
The-
We've got 4 houses on the south route, Carol Hall, Bill and Sandra Ortner, Royce and Faye Miller, and Lorraine and Reba Downey. Now, some of those are considerable distance from the facility, but can you give the,
Nobody should take that road though. I mean, that's an oxbow road. And we're
it's
kinda-
the longer route, obviously, but
you won't have control of who,
Not really a good way to go. I think you would probably put a bridge, because there's a little teeny concrete bridge in there.
I realize that, but, I mean, are you telling us that everybody kind of knows where you're located, the people that will be using this?
Yeah, you have to, because it's not, I wouldn't go down that road.
Well, if we don't know that, I mean, if you knew the area, you probably wouldn't. I realize that.
I've kind of been to the area several times, but you can actually see the facility from the highway, which is a half a mile away or whatever. Once you get to a
0.3.
certain point,
Okay.
so you're gonna wanna turn on that main road that goes right directly to the facility. It just
Seems to make sense to me, but.
The Discord, settlement sign is right on our corner.
well, that's another thing too, is that's what I was wondering, if you could address that maybe possibly even with access signs that would limit the traffic on that other road to that extent.
Yeah, the.
Beyond
visual
even dust
sign
control.
Will be one that would be a little bit of a challenge in regards, because we talked just about that point. In the county, and Highway 31, first of all, is a state highway, so we don't control that right of way. Our engineer could just approve plopping something in the right of way where it makes sense to do it. It would have to be, the state would have to approve. And they may well do that, but we don't know that. It seems that it would make sense to have a sign at least at that north access point off the highway,
Yeah.
that this is the way, but we need to convince the state that it's warranted.
Yeah, there's a permitting process through the DOT, that you can get a tourist directional oriented sign and put on the highway. Just an application process, you gotta do it every year, put up the sign and maintain it.
One of those green ones.
Yeah.
We've done some audits already, we've done some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that the reason, the only reason is just another avenue to stop problems down the road. That you got an access where there's no residents on, that makes sense, it's the best road, that's the way they should enter.
Makes sense to me.
Okay.
I hope it does to the DOT.
Yeah. Okay, any other comments on that point at this time? Okay, moving on to item E, essential public facilities and services will adequately serve the proposed use or development.
We believe the right-of-way is sufficient. The very close access to concrete state highway is a huge plus. This facility will be required to connect potable water and a septic system. And typically, we cover ourselves there by one of your recommended conditions is that all local, federal, and state permits will be applied for. That includes Siouxland District Health. It's of note here that it's conceivable that Siouxland District Health may waive the septic permitting of the structure to the DNR. We don't know that yet. Sometimes on very large facilities that require any type of specialized system, that they do that. So we don't even know who we're working with yet. But that would be a condition staff would make to the Board of Adjustment to cover that issue. Other than that, we will be requesting public comment from the town of Anthon, that fire district's fire chief, emergency services regarding ambulance service to the facility, those kinds of things. They don't typically provide much comment historically unless they see an issue. We've got plenty of area here for a turnaround area for emergency vehicles should be a problem. The Board of Adjustment is kind of tasked with making sure that those things get covered. If you feel from the testimony that there's significant detail that they should check into in those areas, you can put a condition on your recommendation. But I think as far as public facilities and services go, we should be in very good shape.
Moving on to item F, the proposed use or development will not result in unnecessary adverse effects upon any significant natural, scenic, or historic features of the subject property or adjacent properties.
Although official studies were not done or required, we're unaware of anything historic, archaeological that would be impacted from this facility. It is basically a homestead building site, which has already been developed, at least as far as the structure goes. We don't see the outdoor amenities, including the parking lots, camping lots, or the riding trail, will significantly impact any natural or scenic features within the area.
Was there a permit of doing some regrading of some floodplain area?
Yeah, they pulled that permit, been issued.
Okay.
And the purpose there is to, we know what our base flood elevation is. The intent is to get the southern building site area up above the floodplain,
Okay.
where it can be removed, and then they can apply for this new building permit to place a structure there and not be impeded by our floodplain management ordinances.
Will they have to apply for loan?
That's the process they're within right now.
Okay.
I don't know, has it been submitted yet, do you know?
The
Your
LOMA?
LOMA application, has it been submitted?
The floodplain correction?
Yeah. No, you've got a floodplain development permit from us allowing you certifying that you're going to bring the elevation some distance, some measurement above that, the base flood elevation. And they will assess it, issue a letter to you telling you this area is out of the floodplain.
I think that's what Sean does.
My understanding is he's in the process of doing that.
They gave me the elevations that I need to work with.
Okay, so you should double check that to make sure they're working on it. And if it went in, I'd just kind of like to know when, because I can then know when to expect it.
Is that the engineer or the surveyor, the surveyor?
Schoenfeld is a surveyor and an engineering firm, I
Yes.
believe.
Okay, yeah, we've heard of it before.
And wouldn't that be covered also when you, all state, local permits are met? I mean,
Yes.
that would cover that section anyhow, because it would have to be removed from the floodplain prior to being able to get the building permit.
Right.
Okay.
Just wanted to point that out.
Okay. All right.
Okay, moving on.
Yes.
Number 2, other considerations. In its review of conditional use requests, the Board of Adjustment shall consider whether or to what extent A, the proposed use or development at the particular location is necessary or desirable to provide a service or facility that is in the public interest and will contribute to the general welfare of the neighborhood or community. Comment to that?
My only comment is I think the applicant's own testimony regarding the service that they want to provide to give back is the best statement I could make.
Okay, I agree. Okay. On to the next item. Item B, that all possible efforts, including building and site design, landscaping, and screening, have been undertaken to minimize any adverse effects of the proposed use or development.
Comment is there probably aren't any significant adverse effects to require that we change any of the design that's been presented for the site plan, other than the floodplain issue. This thing is far enough, we think, from right-of-way, Wolf Creek Trail, as well as the highway, that we're not recommending any landscaping or screening take place. That would have to, that could be voluntary by the applicant if you wanted to do that.
Well, it sounds like just the design of the structure and the rustic nature, it's not gonna stick out like a sore thumb.
Right.
Or-
What might be the most adverse visual impact might be the rec vehicle component or the camping area. And the things that can be set far enough off. Wolf Creek Trail is not a route that anybody but the destination point is the only people probably that use it, with rare exceptions. I mentioned the 4 houses on the south route.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't know what direction they come from, but do they typically use the other south entrance to 31, or are they coming back to you?
At times there's some traffic, but, you know, it's.
Virtually nil, isn't it? I mean,
Most of them go the other way, you know, from past our house.
do 185th or 195th?
Depends which direction they want to head, you know, if they want to go north or come around. There's gets to be some traffic, just seeing what's over the fence, what we're doing.
Oh, okay. And there'll probably be more of that once you start.
The only other thing I can think of is that if you're moving dirt to get out of the floodplain, is there, like erosion, we have silt net, or silt fence there, that kind of erosion? I just can't visualize it, so I.
It's pretty flat, but if they're disturbing more than an acre, there's a permit. They would be required to pull an NPDES permit,
Okay,
which pertains to erosion control, including silt fence or otherwise,
okay.
as well as revegetation of any disturbed areas that our structures aren't placed on.
Okay. Okay. Any other comments on those? Okay. Comments, period, on any of these?
That's similar to what our site plan is. This vertical siding in
discussed tonight would be things that we would put in our staff recommendation to the Board of Adjustment anyway, but if there's anything you feel needs a little more reinforcement,
I
put it
think-
in your motion.
I think the only thing we discussed, and not that it's even gonna be the issue, is if there is a potential for the dust issue. Not that it's even gonna come into play, but it's something that can be
Yeah.
solved either by redirecting traffic to the main road or dust, maybe somebody's driving up that road and they're meeting 6 trailers and they say, I don't know.
You know, the more I think about this sign issue, which is kind of tied to the pay route and then dust, is if we could get to a point where part of the Board of Adjustments permit was a condition that access signage be put at the north entrance of 31, they could use that fact as ammunition with the DOT if there was some reservation there.
Oh, to help get the
To
sign.
help them get the sign.
Well,
Okay.
another thing that I thought of is, why couldn't you block off that entrance and have some kind of a way to block off that other way coming on?
Well, they
the
can't
road?
block the road though.
No, I know, they can't block the road, but put up there some kind of a sign there, for the residents only, and put a sign going the other way. I
But
mean,
that road's still off.
Say that.
It's still off of
About
Highway
30.
31.
Yeah,
But
so,
Still get there that way.
no, but what I'm getting at is they probably can't do that without DOT approval either. They can't block an access point.
But you could go to the county engineer and ask him for his assistance and something like that if it would become.
What would probably be the
Where I was
smartest thing
gonna
to do would be another sign at the south access point to the highway saying, whatever you're gonna name this thing, DeRocher Event Center or whatever, next exit or next quarter mile or whatever the distance is. That would probably be the best, I think, to deal.
Well, and most of I assume it's repeat situations, so there's gonna be a huge percentage that are gonna know this is the way we go. There's gonna be a few, like if it, say, not that you're going to, but if it was a wedding event, those
Yeah.
people aren't gonna know that. That type of situation, but that's where the signage on the proper.
If it came to an event, if we could put a sign, we just say, we'll put a sign, that would deter anybody from going into the south entrance, but we still have to get to the point where we can put the sign up.
Yes.
With everybody's GPS capabilities anymore, you're gonna find that that's the best way to get.
So maybe that's a good idea to put that in, so Board of Adjustment puts that as a condition or something to do, and then maybe the DOT would grant it easier because of that reason. Well, I don't know that the Board of Adjustment has to, does the Board of Adjustment have to put that as an absolute condition, or can they put that as a recommendation?
That all efforts will be made to place the appropriate sign.
Not putting a specific burden on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's all we're doing is if we make a recommendation, it's not a condition that can't be changed or adjusted or.
And maybe we can get some information from the DOT in the next week as to if that's even doable.
Because I assume it'd be good if you could put a sign there just for your benefit too.
We would like to have a sign there, just to make it easier for people to find it. I mean, granted, they're gonna see it from the highway, but still, it would deter them from using the south road,
Just minimize all problems down the road, period. Access easier.
And it'll be northbound and southbound for some.
Well, there's another idea. There is a sign there, Discord Settlement. So if they're directed to the Discord Settlement road,
It's already there.
it's already there.
Yeah,
But,
that may be our fallback
I
position.
mean, that's an option, yeah. I mean, it'd be better if we had a sign, but if worse comes to worse, we can direct it to that sign.
So I guess we could just word something like that, and the reason why we're suggesting that is to minimize the potential for issues, ease of access, limit dust on the other access road, and so, did you have a,
Yeah. Well,
sorry, John.
Okay. So, are we ready to make a motion?
Is that the only condition then?
Yeah, that was one of my concerns, is just anything to try and help them get where they want to go with this project.
The easement at the pinch point we talked about, that's just a recommendation, and they should probably clean
Yeah.
that up too. Okay.
Yeah, for their
I mean,
benefit.
there again, Joe wants to put his fence up, that can stop him from going up into those four parcels that he's got up there in the hill. Which, from what I'm seeing on the aerials, looks like that's a excellent place that they probably want to ride at times too.
How-
Go
Have you,
around it and go back in.
how long is that fence, that route to get access that you weren't aware that it wasn't? How long has that been there? As far as you can,
2007.
Well, clear back a little, 1975.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we put a new fence in, but yeah, that's an existing fence.
so you've been maintaining that or
Yeah.
whatever through that area? I mean, they may have quiet acquisition may be in play too.
Yeah, I think you probably want to be a good neighbor.
No, I'm just saying, I don't know if hopefully it never is an issue, but just for protection.
As an adverse possession, big thing.
Um,
What about state, local?
we're gonna throw that on
That-
as
that's-
part of our standard procedure with them anyway.
And that covers the septic issue anyhow then.
We talked a lot about fugitive dust. You just wanna wait, see what the engineer says in his comments, and then we'll just deal with it. Fugitive dust and, roadway dust.
Yeah, no sense in throwing it
Mud
up.
until he comments. Okay, so what I'm hearing here is just the sign language as a condition to support their application to that.
I mean, if these people are gonna have notice at the time of the Board of Adjustment, and they don't show up and don't speak their piece, then I would say they're okay with it. And if that were the case, which you always get somebody showing up unfortunately, but if that were the case, then they'll have to live with the
What
dust.
were you that?
Well, and actually, there's steps to meet that condition that can be taken.
Yeah.
That's all we have to do, is determine that they can minimize or,
Right. To look at these certain points and evaluate the need for.
we don't have to say what it's gonna be, but there are
Right.
steps that can be taken to,
Alleviate any problems. Okay, so I think we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a
With the
second?
one,
With the
one condition
One condition.
on the
Bruce
sign
made that.
to the north.
Yep, Bruce made that. Do we have a second?
I'm sorry about
Okay, a motion, a second, any other discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
I,
Okay, all opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Unanimously.
For this benefit of the DeRochers, we will take this recommendation and present it to the Board of Adjustment at their meeting next Monday. And that is the venue by which all your neighbors have been notified. They could come and be heard on any issue that
Next Monday,
next Monday.
that's August.
Oh, I'm sorry, August, well, that will be first.
That's 2 weeks.
7th?
2 weeks or,
It's not the second.
July 24.
it's the
the
first.
31st.
Oh,
July
this-
31st is next Monday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that right?
So it's a week from there.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
all,
that's
it's published for the 7th. It will be the 7th,
Okay.
no matter what.
First
we-
Monday.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just gonna have to get hold of the Board of Adjustment and, I'm trying to figure out how I did that. So we got a calendar? Not that I don't believe you, but.
Yeah, next Monday is 31st, or, Tuesday's the first.
Tuesday's first, yeah, a week from,
All right, this is August.
Just flip it down.
Well, they meet the first Monday, okay, that's right. I mean, it's just so happens the way the month fell this go
First
around.
Monday is the 7th.
Usually they're 1 week after each other. We just happen to have, the Board of Adjustment meets the first,
31st.
yeah, they should meet on the 31st. We've got it published for the 7th. We're gonna have to live with the 7th.
Can't stop.
Okay.
And that's at what time?
6 PM and you'll get a separate,
Here,
yeah, same place, same song and dance, just different players.
we had to wait 9 weeks for DNR just to do this evaluation, so it's gonna wait 2 weeks now.
Well, I missed that this week issue, I messed that up. I apologize.
Okay, that's taken care of.
So would you recommend we have our own slideshow for this thing?
You're certainly welcome to make any presentation you want to.
It-
But it would have to be placed on a, kind of a flash drive.
We can do that.
And how long?
And
If there's any opposition,
Basically, the slides don't show the polls, is what I'm
like that is anticipated and it's very rarely done, but I can't, you know, if you, if that's how you want to present it, we'll accommodate you.
If somebody's gonna show up and talk against it, that's the time
I
to
would
have
say You
ammunition,
might be prepped to do it
why you want them.
and just see who shows up. We may have it.
It's in conjunction with a little graph I did, you know, just a picture for this comment and a picture for that comment.
When you do this slideshow, do you do it like on a PowerPoint thing? Is that,
I don't know yet, I've been playing with it, what I come up with, wasn't working real well.
well, if you use PowerPoint, you can print your presentation and we would need a hard copy. I mean, we could make it from your disk if you use PowerPoint to put into the record. We need a hard copy.
That's what it's done.
And it might be easier sometimes just to pass that out to the members as well as to anybody here. And then just review it. Everybody's got one in their hand rather than looking at a screen 20 feet away. We can do whatever you need.
Hands on the print.
Yeah, the hard
Pictures
copy.
would be on there.
Yeah, if you gave us the hard copy of it, we'd run enough copies for all the members.
Stop and start, that's what I've done in the past in presentations, just, you know, have a picture and talk about it, and get to the next picture. and talk.
However you want to do it, just let us know.
But again, if you can do that here with this screen.
We could take your flash drive and put it in the
Like I said,
computer.
I had pictures in mind in different segments of this presentation for you.
Yeah, if you decide to do that, I recommend on the 7th, you show up a little bit early to
Yeah.
make sure everything's working.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Pushing her out the door.
Okay, next item on the agenda is any citizen wishing to be heard. Seeing and hearing none, we'll move on to the next one. Commissioner comment or inquiry? Do we have
Any
any?
questions about what's going on? Any issues? You know what's going on with CAFOs, so
What?
all the CAFO stuff. We'll continue to get some press on that, I think. I don't know if there's going to be any suits out of any of them, but the threat has been made.
And what was that again?
CAFO?
Thank you.
Conservation
Good luck.
Operations. There's been some talk about the one on 110th Street, somebody filing a lawsuit to stop it,
To stop what?
to stop.
What you missed?
What you missed out and you
Yeah.
approved.
Yeah,
I'm
concentrate
so
on-
sorry I missed that.
Yeah, you missed all the good ones.
Okay.
And we don't know if it's, I mean, the statement was made to the supervisors at a meeting where they approved a final plat, so the lot could be sold to this operator of a proposed feeder operation tied to Seaboard Triangle.
The finish,
Yeah,
This one's a nursery.
or nursery, I mean, that we talked about.
last week. Well, as soon as you said 110th, I know what you meant there.
Yeah, that's the one. So that, we had a little bit of opposition at the Board of Supervisors final plat approval. They still approved it. And that's where the statement was made.
Was the lawsuit directed towards the county or
It's not
towards
here
the?
yet, it was just,
But the threat, was it?
no, it was to sue the applicant
Okay,
to stop it. I don't know how they're gonna do that, unless they find some arrowheads or something, but then they're trespassing to do that. I don't know. Probably just upset, they state that you regrets, hopefully.
I have a question on, the, sale of fireworks. Do you have any problems with that at all?
We had one, party in rural Woodbury County that we're aware of that did it, was at Buchanan and Highway 20, Jerry Peterson. It was already a commercially zoned parcel. He had, it was just a cluster at the end with the state fire marshal because they weren't geared up and people didn't know they had permits till the last, couple days before almost. And he was converting a section of his storage, personal storage unit, pulled out the interior walls, did all that, shelves up. State fire marshal shows up a couple days before the sale date started and said, well, you're X number of feet above a certain threshold, you require a sprinkler system.
Oh my goodness.
And he goes, well, this will lop off the end of, just pull this unit off the end. And they go, no, we're not gonna allow you to do that. We'll measure from the original footings. So he had everything he had done to probably 10 units, was Vernell, and he threw up a tent
Yeah.
just last second.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Just fine, the tent's okay.
Yeah, and, well, the tent,
Yeah.
when you do a temporary structure, you're limited on the number of days you can sell, so it collapsed that. And, you gotta most of your inventory's gotta be stored in a container outside the tent. So it comes, storage
Yeah.
unit, brought one of those down, so it wasn't ideal. I don't know if anybody made, so many people were, everybody and their brothers selling these in dollar stores.
Tents and
You know,
Hy-Vee parking.
And then all the Hy-Vees did their deal, worked a deal with Zorts or somebody. I don't know if they're all spread around, nobody made money this year, I haven't heard.
You
Sure
find
were a lot
out
of
how.
fireworks going off though. So we're just gonna sit back, we anticipate Sioux City, they haven't rescinded their whole fireworks ordinance yet, have they?
And I also heard from somebody that was pretty up on the fireworks stuff, that the city cannot override what the state has got in place as far as the laws are.
Well, I think I had heard that
Imagine
when
the county's gonna be the same way.
when the cities and towns started throwing up a barrier, collapsing the days, or banning it entirely, which some did, that ticked off the people who sponsored this bill down in Des Moines, and I think Sioux City, I had heard, is going to rescind all their ordinances that try to control this. And just so you fall back on whatever the state wanted to happen, just so they aren't part of the lawsuit, which eventually will sort this out on who can do what.
Right.
So there'll probably be something go to the Iowa Supreme Court, and hopefully we got it cleared up by next board. So the county is just kind of sitting and
But wait till
we're not gonna stick our nose in anything, ban anything. If you're gonna have open fireworks, it makes more sense rurally than it does out in, downtown Sioux City shooting stuff off buildings. We're not highly densely populated area.
Bring the communities down again.
I didn't hear anybody seriously get hurt. I think a guy out in Morningside lost his fingers.
There's a guy over in Leeds lost part of his hand. Where is he?
Is it somebody like Van Holland or something like that?
I don't know,
Same
I
guy.
didn't catch the name, but he said he lost his hand on that.
He's a landscaper. Can you imagine that? He was
It's gonna be.
lost part of a
Well,
hand.
then there was some kid that lost, he had his hand all wrapped up and he lost some fingers on his other hand.
But do they have these every year? We just never hear about it.
So I think it came to light because actually the number of complaints that were filed were almost the same as last year. And
Followed up on it.
they followed up and they had some more ticket citations this year, but the complaints were almost the same.
Well, it's so hard for those guys to catch the person. Actually, they have to see it in the act.
Well, everybody last year was illegal. Nobody was legal. This year it was a complaint. They'd have to figure out whether it was after 10 o'clock or
Biggest I
before.
complaint iron, it just kept getting later and later this year. Instead of one last year, it was 2 or 3 this year, all the way up to dawn, I guess.
Anything else?
Nope.
Thanks for coming.
Do you want these?
Motion to close the
Here from.
meeting or not close, but adjourn, sorry.